Call to order the regular meeting of the Dickinson City Commission for Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. Let the record show we're missing two commissioners, Commissioner Bear and Commissioner Frederick. First item this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We'll move into the order of business. Mr. Dossinger, are there any changes to the order of business?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Commission. There's no change to the order of business this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dossinger. Any questions on the order of business as presented? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
with a second. Any further discussion on the order of business as presented? Hearing none, all in favor of the order of business as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our next item is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that the commissioners wish to discuss? Not, I look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Murphy,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We'll move into administration and finance. Our first item this evening is the Harlow's bus service contract. Mr. Dossinger?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Commission. As part of the North Dakota League of Cities spring conference, our community is hosting a tour of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library on Tuesday, March 17th for attendees. I am requesting approval for a charter coach order with Harlow's bus service in the amount of $4,500 to cover the cost of two 56-passenger coaches to provide transportation for this event.
Thank you, Mr. Dossinger. Any questions on this service contract with Harlow's?
Mr. Dossinger, is there any recoup that the city would have on that?
It is not. There'll be no recoup on this.
Any other questions on the Harlow service contract? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Murphy,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Our next, we have an ABM printer contract. This will be presented by IT Director Meyer.
Good evening, President Decker, Commissioners. Before you, I have the renewal for two printers, one of them in City Hall, which we're actually going to a smaller model just due to volumes on it, and a printer contract for our dispatch center where we're changing from black and white to color just to suit kind of some of the purposes they need over there. It's an anticipated increase of about $27 per month or $330 for the year.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Any questions for Mr. Meyer on this printer contract? The upgrade to color, is that a requirement for?
It's not a requirement. It's more just to keep them from having to go halfway across the building to get color copies.
All right, if there are no other questions, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Riddle,
Second.
second by Commissioner Murphy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a 2024-2025 audit proposal. This will be presented by Deputy Finance Director Greenwood.
Good evening, Mayor Decker, Commissioners. For your consideration is a proposal from Brady Martz to perform an audit on our 2024 and 2025 financial statements. The proposed fee is $52,500 per year, which includes a single audit that is also required for us. The proposed timeline includes starting field work this summer for the 2024 audit, with the final report to be issued by September 30th. And then the 2025 field work will follow that, with that report expected by January of 2027. It is possible that they can work on 24 and 25 at the same time, but that depends on the results of our 2023 audit. To provide some background on this request, the city is still waiting to receive our 2023 audit from our current auditing firm, which was expected by September of 2024. So we are over a year and a half past the deadline for that. It is my understanding that there was some delays in getting information to the auditors due to staffing constraints during that time, but I still think, we should have had it by now. Current audit reports are critical for securing major funding sources and having reliable data for decision making. Right now, the Public Finance Authority of that state is not approving loans for us at this time until our 23 draft is ready. So that's kind of hindering us from getting loans secured for our projects this year. So I reached out to Brady Martz to see if they'd be interested in submitting a proposal. They're a local firm with governmental experience, and I think they can get us back on track. So this is not an engagement letter, but I'm looking to get us on the schedule for them because they're currently scheduling clients for the next year.
And the 2023 is obviously with a different firm.
Yes. I don't plan on signing an engagement letter with them again, so.
Okay.
Director Greenwood, is this proposed amount, is that kind of in line for what we're paying now?
Yes, we
Okay.
budgeted $60,000 for 2026's audit.
Okay, thank you.
What's not included in that is if we have to pay them for some extra time, because some of our reports and things that we pay our auditors to kind of do for us because we don't have the software to keep it up to date. So there might be some additional fees on top of that, but it's required, so.
But below the budgeted amount, so.
Yep.
Any other questions? There are no further questions. I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Murphy,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Riddle,
Aye.
chair votes aye, motion carries. Mrs. Greenwood, you have our monthly financial report.
So our general fund balance is at $10,500,000. This includes our budgeted transfers that we post at the beginning of the year. So those transfers will help cover expenses through the first quarter. Our sales tax revenue is off to a good start. We received $1.3 million in January. And here's the breakdown between the 1% and the 0.5%. Our hospitality tax is also up. We received $1.3 million from oil revenue, which is the same as last year. And then here's the breakdown of the sources compared to previous years to date. Our utility revenue collected is at 4%, which is normal for this time of year. And here's a breakdown of the enterprise fund expenditures by department. We're working on finalizing the 2025 fund balances, and we'll have that report next month.
Okay. Any questions on the monthly financial report?
Director Greenwood, on the oil impact revenue monthly breakdown,
Yep.
I only see the 2 lines in there, so is that,
Yep, so
Is
this
that
is January's comparison for the past 5 years, and we did not get that airport debt relief funding until till the end of 25.
okay.
Are you talking about that 174?
Well, it's page 4 of their packet, it's the oil impact revenue monthly breakdown. So on the bottom of the slide, basically breaking down the trailing 3 years, 24, 25, and 26. It looks like,
Oh,
I just was wondering if knowing we only have a few months in the 26 year, or the 1 month probably, is that,
are you talking about the January
Yeah.
dot? You can't see the dot
is
because
it,
we
is it
received
just
the
underneath,
same.
so it's in line with?
Yeah, we
with-
received 1.3 in January of
just
2025, so
In line
those
with
dots,
25?
yeah, they're right on top of each other.
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Greenwood? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our HR monthly report. This will be presented by HR Director Nominick.
Thank you, and good evening, President Decker and Commissioners. This report was updated on February 10th, so there have been a few changes since then. But first off, the police department, we do have 4 openings for police officer. We've been doing interviews. We are in the interview stage for that. Seems like we make a couple steps forward and a couple backwards, so we'll keep working on that. Public safety telecommunicator 1, we have 3 openings. Looks like 1 in background, 1 withdrew, so we reopened, and we're at the interview stage again for those positions. Animal control, we had 1 position open. We are setting up and getting those interviews done. Fire department, for the firefighter paramedic, 1 opening. We just recently hired Chase Williams, Morgan Well. I see that we were onboarding her today, and then we have 1 in background, so hopefully that will all be filled up soon. Part-time paramedic, 2 openings, 1 in background and one in the interview stage. And for Public Works, water reclamation facility, we did make an offer for that position, so we are in the background phase on that. Solid waste operator, 1 opening, and they did have some interviews, and was just discussing that before I came in, so looks like they had some people they're interested in. Seasonal solid waste operator, we have 3 openings there, and they've done some interviews and are getting ready to make some offers. Buildings and grounds seasonal, we've got 12 openings. They work real hard at getting the same people back, that we've had in the past year, so hopefully we'll get a bunch of those back. We haven't done any interviewing yet for that position. And then the motor vehicle division, we had an opening for an internal position for the title and registration coordinator. Changed that job description up at the last meeting. Had that internal, those interviews, and we did make an offer and announced that today. Pam Eno was the person that was chosen for that position. Engineering, we had a GIS technician position open, and we have made an offer. We're in the background stage. Project engineer, you met Daniel at the last meeting, so he hasn't been on board for a couple weeks. Museum, seasonal paleontology assistant, we have 1 opening. I'm working on the interviews there. And I would take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mrs. Nominick. Any questions on the monthly HR report? All right,
Dirk?
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Well,
oh,
I have 1
Yeah,
question. You
yes.
stated that, some of the difficulties with the police officers, is there any particular reason for that, or is it pay, is it?
I
Location?
just did a couple exits last week, and that was not the indication I got from these 2 individuals. One of them came as a lateral from, a big city, and had some prior experience in fire. So he was going back to that. So no, I don't, at this point, some of them maybe would say, but these two individuals, it wasn't because of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into public safety. We have our fire department annual report. This will be presented by Fire Chief Presnell.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. Before you tonight to present our annual report, we had a very busy 2025, and I think the numbers will show that. Just as a reminder, and with one addition, the services we do provide, they go way beyond just fire suppression. We now operate the ambulance service in town. We do a lot of fire prevention activities, and then our regional response for hazmat operations, structural collapse, confined space, and low and high angle rescue. So here's a 3-year breakdown. As you can see, 2025, there was a significant jump, and that was due to the ambulance transition, which we did anticipate seeing a massive increase from taking on those services. Our operational rhythm, a lot of our call are driven by the season. As we kind of start to get into the fall, we start to see an increase in calls. It's been pretty consistent over the last 5 years where we start to see that increase. And if you look there in July, you can see a pretty big increase. Again, that was due to the transition of the ambulance service. And then a breakdown by the day of the week. Friday is definitely our busiest day, with Mondays and Tuesdays coming in pretty close with that. A breakdown of the type of calls we're seeing. Obviously, EMS is a significant number. We ran just over 1,700 EMS calls last year, 110 fires, and then 177 good intent calls and 377 false alarms. A good intent call is when somebody calls in for mistaking like steam or something as smoke. We consider that and classify that as a good intent call. Hazardous conditions would be our CO or fuel spills, stuff like that. And then false alarm, false calls are when an alarm system activates and there's no emergency. We tend to see that a big increase as we get into the really cold months. And then when it starts to, the temperatures start to come back up, we start to see a lot of sprinkler line breaks in some of our apartments and hotels. So just a little breakdown of some of our EMS stats. 76.5% of our EMS calls result in a transport. So a large majority of the calls that were going on, the patient is being transported. I think that's a little bit of an increase from the numbers previous for EMS calls. And we are spending approximately 43 minutes on scene from the time we get on scene until we load the patient and get to the hospital. And 372 transfers from Dickinson to Bismarck, Dickinson to other locations from the hospital. That is a significant workload. Those do take us about 3.5 to 4 hours from door to door. So from the time we pick up the patient to the time we drop them off and get back, it's a significant workload. Some of our fire loss statistics. We responded to just under 12 million in property value, and we only lost a little over $1 million, so saved about 10 million. That's $1 lost for every $10 we save. So we're doing pretty good. We're getting on scene quick to these fires. We're getting them out and minimizing the amount of loss we're seeing. So we're running a little high on fire. Looking back through the data, a lot of that increase came from responding from the Public Safety Center during the transition. We were up there a lot trying to get stuff ready, so both stations were assisting with that prep work, and there were a lot of responses coming from the North Station, and it did bring up our response times. On the EMS side, we're sitting pretty good at 6 minutes, 18 seconds. Our benchmark is 8 minutes. That's kind of the industry standard, so it's looking pretty good there, and we're going to continue to bring that down as much as possible. Station 1 still handles the lion's share of the calls. The majority are coming out of the South Station. We had an excellent year in training, over 20,000 hours. I think that was like 300 hours per person, so a lot of the firefighters put in a lot of work. We were way over. This is one thing, as we are evaluated for our ISO rating, that a lot of points come from this. Looking back at our previous survey that they did when they came into Dickinson, we lost a lot of points because of our training, and this would put us and get us some extra points there and hopefully improve our ISO rating when we do get reevaluated. We're out there doing a bunch of inspections, over 1,000 inspections, 323 formal public education activities. That does not include the random station visits we get, the truck tours when we're out and about. So you could probably double that number with the amount of station tours we get. We see 4 or 5 a week, people just stopping by, wanting to check out the station, get a tour of a truck. And then we did issue 14 certificates of occupancy. A ton of community events we do. All kinds of truck tours. We did the 9/11 stair climb, our pancake breakfast. We continually to see the numbers increase for attendance to that. For Fire Prevention Week, we're out in the classrooms at all the schools, various station tours, and then we are very involved with DSU and the CTE, and then any other event that happens, we try to be a part of. And with that, I would gladly answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Chief Presnell. Any questions for the chief on the annual fire report? Well, good job again. Thank you for keeping the community safe. We'll jump into the bid award. Chief?
I'm before you again, Commission, to ask for your approval to award the bid to McQueen Emergency for a Pierce pumper. Here's kind of a breakdown, some basic statistics or data from what the build would be. It'd be a 2,000 GPM pump, 750 gallons of water, 30 gallons of foam, and it would meet NFPA 1901. Just kind of a breakdown there. The bid came in at $1,553,477. The number below that is what it would be with the prepay option, and we can do that various ways. I did want to kind of provide why that number looks so big for the new pumper. This is data that came from the congressional hearing that a lot of the fire truck manufacturers got called to. We've seen prices for fire trucks double since the 2010s. And as you can see, we've gone from just over a year for production to 4+ years. And if we do delay this, we do stand a chance in seeing prices increase and delays continue to get longer and longer. And then with that, I would answer any questions you have on the pumper.
Thank you, Chief. This thing costs as much as a combine. Yeah, even since I've gotten on the city commission, the prices have jumped quite a bit.
Just for comparison, when we purchased the tower, that was about 3 years ago or 4 years ago when we actually made the purchase or signed the contract. 1.6 was the cost of that truck. It's about 2.3 today for that same exact truck with no changes.
Any other questions on the bid award for the Pierce fire engine?
Chief, what's the life expectancy?
This would be about a 20 to 25 year truck, 10 frontline, 10 reserve or second out. A lot of fire departments are extending that life. These trucks are being built bigger or better. So once we hit that 10-year mark, we'll kind of evaluate where we're at in terms of hours, mileage on the truck, how it's holding up, and then kind of see if we can extend that even more. Even the NFPA is starting to recognize that we can kind of extend these out into the 30-year range and be pretty safe.
And the truck it's replacing is how old?
By the time we would receive this, it would hit its about 22-year.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking at 47 months, was it? By the time you sign a purchase?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Not, I look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Murphy,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further questions, discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Riddle,
Aye.
chair votes aye, motion carries. And Chief Presnell, you have a lease and finance?
That's correct.
Agreement?
With your guys' approval to award the bid, we are looking to lease purchase through Pierce Financing. We did the same thing with the tower. We did run this by legal and finance, and both said we were good to go there. By doing it through the Pierce Financing, we would be able to get that prepay discount, bringing that down a little bit. I will note that our truck replacement comes out of our insurance reserve funds. The checks we get back from the state for all the insurance premiums that are paid in the city of Dickinson. This is how we make the truck payments, and based on the timeline, when we would get this truck, we would pretty much have it paid off by that point. So with that, I can answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Chief. This is Resolution 06-2026. This is the lease agreement with Pierce for the new fire engine. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Riddle,
Second.
second by Commissioner Murphy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Riddle,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We'll go into community development. I think we can get a couple done here before the 5 o'clock public hearing. So we have a West Ridge 4th Edition subdivision. City Planner Burchek.
Thank you, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. So for your consideration is a resolution to approve of a name change to the West Ridge 4th Edition subdivision as approved by the City Commission on January 6th, 2026. And this is to change the name to the West Ridge 5th Edition subdivision. So for context, when city staff went to record the West Ridge 4th Edition subdivision as approved by City Commission, it was discovered there's already an existing recorded plat with the title of the West Ridge 4th Edition subdivision, and as such, this plat could not be recorded as it was approved. So since then, no other major changes were made to the proposed subdivision, aside from some minor clerical errors that were corrected in the legal description. And since the subdivision was never officially recorded, this change is not considered a correction of a plat and is not subject to the correction of plat process that's outlined in Chapter 40-50.1-7 of the North Dakota Century Code. So this resolution serves as proof that the City Commission has been made aware of and supports the subdivision name change for West Ridge 4th to become West Ridge 5th. I'm present to answer any questions you guys may have, and city planning staff would recommend approval of this name change.
Thank you, Ms. Burchak. This is Resolution 07-2026. Any questions? Not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Murphy,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Riddle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a DWR cost share agreement on the East Broadway Dam. This will be presented by Senior Engineer Keller.
Commissioners, for your consideration is an agreement amendment with the North Dakota Department of Water Resources to provide cost sharing with the city for the pre-construction phase of the East Broadway Dam project. The cost share is for an additional $30,045. This is in conjunction with the previously approved contract amendment with Bar Engineering from the January 23rd Commission meeting. The funds for the cost share are budgeted and were originally intended to be part of the construction phase of the project and are now in the pre-construction phase. The project was approved with the 2026 Capital Improvement Project budget and is to be paid using gross production tax and the North Dakota Department of Water Resources cost share. And that was approved on April 2nd of 2024. The city attorney has reviewed the contract and has no additional comments. and city engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Any questions for Mr. Keller or city staff on this cost share agreement? If there are no questions, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Riddle,
Second.
second by Commissioner Murphy. Any further discussion on the cost share agreement? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
you.
It is 5 o'clock. We'll move into the public hearing. Our first public hearing will be the public hearing on Chapter 62, short-term rentals. This will be presented by City Planner Burchak.
Thank you, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. So Community Development staff is requesting approval of a zoning text amendment to Section 62-133, commercial use types, Table 62-162-2, permitted uses by zoning districts in Section 62-162, development regulations, and Section 62-469, commercial uses, in Chapter 62 zoning of the Dickinson Municipal Code in order to permit and license short-term rental uses within the rural residential or RR, low-density residential or R1, medium-density residential or R2, high-density residential or R3, mobile home or MH, and downtown commercial or DC zoning districts. So this proposed amendment also establishes a licensing process for short-term rental uses that are located within these resident-owned homes and are residential in appearance. So to read out all of the changes that this ordinance would make, so to Section 62-133 commercial use types, it defines short-term rentals as a residential unit where sleeping accommodations are furnished to transient guests for a charge. This definition only applies to single structures with 5 or fewer guest rooms, 10 or fewer total occupants, and where guests stay for fewer than 28 days. So this is to separate it out from the lodging definition, which would require a license from the state of North Dakota in order to operate, whereas the short-term rentals do not. Code change to Table 62-162-2, permitted uses by zoning district, sees short-term rentals permitted in the RR, R1, R2, R3, mobile home, and DC zoning districts. Again, they would require a residential building that's residential in appearance, and the additional regulations are outlined in 62-469 in Item 8. So these additions are found in Section 62-469 commercial uses. For Item 8, we have short-term rentals. When permitted in the RR, R1, R2, R3, mobile home, and downtown commercial zoning districts, short-term rentals shall be subject to the following additional requirements. Short-term rentals must obtain a license through the Community Development Department. In order to obtain a short-term rental license, the applicant shall provide the following information. 1, a list of house rules that all guests must abide by while staying on the property. These house rules shall include a maximum number of guests not to exceed maximum occupancy rates as determined by city building and fire codes. 2, a copy of the property deed in which the applicant shall be listed as the deed holder. 3, the information for a primary contact who shall be available 24/7 if any issues arise with the rental property. 4, a list of any other short-term rental uses and licenses that the applicant has financial stake in. 5, a list of any other residents or entities that have direct financial stake in the proposed short-term rental, as well as the names of the primary stakeholders for any businesses or corporations with financial stake in the property. 6, an emergency plan that demonstrates to guests how to respond to emergencies such as a fire, as well as signed statement that says there are adequate smoke and carbon monoxide detectors installed in the structure. And 7, any additional documentation deemed necessary by community development staff. All short-term rental licenses are subject to a calendar yearly renewal. A yearly license fee as determined by the city shall be paid at the time of application submittal. So we're proposing a yearly license fee of $100. Any entity is allowed to apply for or have financial stake in a maximum of 2 short-term rental licenses. The short-term rental use is only permitted in residential homes owned by the license applicant. Duplexes, townhomes, and apartment complexes with 4 or fewer units must obtain a license for each individual unit being rented. This use is not permitted within apartment complexes with more than 4 units, accessory structures, or accessory dwelling units. Any residences utilized as a short-term rental shall be residential in appearance. The property must meet current zoning requirements, including proper setbacks, landscaping, and off-street parking requirements. And penalty for ordinance violations. Any license issued pursuant to this chapter may be suspended or revoked by the Board of City Commissioners for violating any of the provisions of this chapter. Any licensee or agent employee of a licensee who has violated any provisions of this chapter shall be subject to the following penalties in addition to possible license revocation. The first offense is a $250 administrative fine. The second offense is a $500 administrative fine. The third offense is a $750 administrative fine and a license revocation. The denial of a short-term rental license can be performed at the discretion of a community development director or designee. If an applicant wishes to contest a denial or revocation, they shall submit a written request to the community development director or designee to be brought forward for a public hearing in front of City Commission regarding overturning the denial or revocation. The City Commission may overturn a license denial or revocation with a simple majority vote and resolution. And in the event that a license is revoked due to the applicant violating one of the rules outlined above, the applicant may not apply for a new license until at least 6 months have passed. An applicant having had multiple license revocations in the past may serve as justification to deny a new license application. As of now, staff has received numerous calls from residents in town, mostly just looking for information on how this ordinance would impact them, as well as some concerns over the limit of owning only 2 short-term rentals and being limited to just 2 per resident or per company. As well as some in support of actually permitting this use, as currently it is considered a prohibited use due to there not being a definition at present in our municipal code. I am present to answer any questions that you guys may have, and staff would recommend approval of this zoning text amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Burchek. Any questions at this time for Ms. Burchek or city staff? Seeing no one has questions at this time, this is a public hearing. I will open up the public hearing to anyone present that wishes to come forward. Please come up, please state your name, let the commission know your concerns or any questions.
Thank you, Mayor Decker and Commissioners. I'm Angela Haverluck. I am a real estate professional here in Dickinson, and just had some questions with clarification on the recommendations. I mean, I understand that there are recommendations and that there hasn't been anything here before stated. I just have some why questions, I suppose. The list of any other short-term rental uses and licenses the applicant has financial stakes in. Wondering why that particular is specific here, and then the list of any other residents or entities, again, with the financial stake, if you own the property and have that use to rent. I guess I have apartments here in Dickinson and have one specifically, wondering why that would make a difference. I own it, and it is a rental already. The other is why the maximum of 2 short-term rental licenses. I can understand if it is a large corporation, someone who doesn't have interest in Dickinson. The rent income is taxed as hospitality occupancy tax that then becomes local income here, but it's also spent locally by people that live here and then returned back to the businesses that are in this area. Not sure why it would make a difference that there was 2 or if there was 3 or 4. That was just in discussion, talked about if it is something that is a concern of taking away from the hotel industry or lodging industry or adding and raising prices of rentals, it still is returning back to the community, and we do have rentals in Dickinson. There is a huge desire for that with people traveling for medical professionals looking for being here in the area, and that's definitely something that we need, having that opportunity to have it as a home away from home and not have to stay in a hotel. Shift workers also who have that extended stay, sometimes staying where you are at home is definitely an advantage. There's a huge amount of allergy sensitivities that we are finding in the community and just in general in America, that people staying at a hotel, having to go out and eat, it very, very much limits their vacationing stay. buying and selling homes, there's multiple times when people need to move out of one home and into another and have all about their belongings in a hotel. I mean, there's quite a few. I could keep going on. DSU with families who are coming to stay with their students that are going to school there. I guess just wondering, I know that this was a recommendation. We don't have anything in order. I did go through and look through the Bismarck ordinances, and theirs is very, very limited, being the state capital. They do have quite a few people in and out of there. Their ordinances are very limited. I do have a copy here that I can leave, just showing what they have. West Fargo also, I didn't do every city, but I did take a couple. And theirs are more detailed, but it's not as restrictive. I feel like some of this is a little excessive when you look, moving on into like section D and F, where it's only permitted in residential homes owned by the licensed applicant. And then apartment complexes, duplexes, accessory structures, or ADUs, just where we live and the uses here, I think that it's a little overreach or excessive. The penalties, I do understand there's always skin in the game. If you're gonna do something and have a license, there's rules to follow. So I guess I just think that there's more to be looked at here or more to be addressed. I'm sure there's others that have questions, but I think that's all I have. But just some of them were why questions.
I guess I will defer to Ms. Burchak and city staff on why the number 2 was selected and some of the other zoning or the locations for the permitted zoning.
Yeah, so the main reason why those requirements for any financial stake or anybody who would have financial stake is because of that 2 short-term rental limit. So we just want to make sure that we don't have somebody trying to skirt the requirements and have financial stake in a significant number of short-term rental units greater than the number 2 that would be permitted. As for why the number 2 was chosen, we were trying to limit the number of residential homes that a person can own that they turn into short-term rentals because of how oftentimes a significant number of short-term rentals can have a pretty negative impact on housing and apartment availability in cities. So we had researched in Rapid City, which is a little bit of a larger community, of course, than Dickinson is, but they in the past have had a pretty significant issue with short-term rentals kind of overtaking the housing in the city and jacking up a lot of the housing prices. And so this was our, the intention behind it is just to kind of protect those housing costs so that we're not encouraging a whole bunch of residential blocks to be bought up and used as short-term rental, preventing people from having access to permanent homes. In regards to any, or requiring it be the deed holder that applies for the license, in the past, the city of Dickinson, particularly due to some of the oil industry, how we have a lot of those transient workers, has seen where companies would come in and rent or lease a property from either the deed holder or a different leasing agent, and then sell those back as short-term rentals, which is something that we're trying to avoid because there was a whole lot less restrictions, requirements. This is how you lead to a lot of those smaller homes that are really not fit for a visitor. They lack a lot of those smoke detectors. They lack a lot of safety infrastructure. We're just trying to avoid those properties from getting utilized as short-term rentals. It has to be something that is residential in appearance that meets the requirements for a short-term rental, which is the same reason why ADUs are being left out. And for something like a large apartment complex, a lot of those apartment complexes have a lot of the common areas that can be behind a gate or can have some kind of key-in security system. And having a lot of significant short-term rental visitors can often compromise those security systems because then anybody who rents an apartment for the short term now has access to that code. Whether or not they use it isn't necessarily the issue, but it can be shared. It becomes more widely accessible, and it can lead to some issues with any apartment buildings that offer a lot of these. So the reason for that apartment complexes with fewer than 4 units is because typically all of those buildings have an exterior entrance and exit, and safety wouldn't be compromised for any long-term tenants, is kind of the motivation behind some of those requirements.
I know how this goes, if I can ask you more questions.
Sure.
Okay, so then I know that there are some instances where it just seems a little bit gray in the description, where if I have a fourplex and I have one unit as a short-term rental, or if I have 6 units in a 6-unit complex and I have 1 unit as a short-term rental, where they are very clearly residential in nature, but yet an apartment or condo look, does that disqualify that from a short-term rental?
So part of the question can also be when it goes from an apartment building to then a hotel or a lodging facility, because typically if you have more than 5 rooms is technically how they classify it. If you have 5 or more rooms being offered as a short-term rental or as a lodging, then you fall under the lodging that has to get licensed by the state. So technically for a facility, or if you're looking at an apartment building that's renting out 6 rooms plus, would kind of lead into a gray area of whether it would even be a short-term rental or would fall under a lodging. It would require different licensing.
Okay, so if it's a 6-unit, that 5 of them are long-term rentals and 1 of them is short-term rental, does that make it disqualified? Is that what I'm looking for?
So based on our ordinance right now, yes, it would, because it would be an apartment complex greater than that 4 units. Because this is, again, where you might have that common area where you might be sacrificing the safety of the long-term tenants by having a pretty short-term tenant routine coming in and constantly having access to some kind of code.
Okay, where it may have, but not, is there room for adjustment on that? Then where maybe you do have a fourplex where there is no security code, there's one common area where it's just walk in, walk out. I guess I'm just wondering, I have lots of questions, I suppose, because
That's
I have
fair.
multiple people who ask. They're looking for options for short-term rentals or.
So at the end of the day, we do kind of have to have a delineating line somewhere. And so the fourplex was chosen because typically you can have kind of a fourplex building that still looks residential in appearance. Like you can have 4 townhomes all lined up in a row that can still look residential in appearance. But once you kind of start getting higher than that, that's when you're able to have more of an apartment building style that can come off a little bit less residential in appearance than like a single family home or a townhome, if that makes any sense.
Okay, so you have a delineating line here, but is there any room for approval if it falls within safety?
Based on our current proposal, no. I think that then we would be getting a little bit overcomplicated for an administrative licensing if we now have to start looking at exactly what the nature is of this building. Because again, this proposal also doesn't require any kind of inspection for the property.
Mhm.
If we ever do something like this, it a lot of the time might end up falling under the word of the owner for, oh yeah, it doesn't look like an apartment building, it's just 5 units. We would then probably also need to require an inspection, which starts to actually make sure and verify that information is correct, which
Or-
can then also lead to longer approval times for
Or if
everybody.
you had one that you've used that way for multiple years and there's never been concerns over, I guess, I understand the line, but I think there's room for adjustment there. I think, but I don't know how to even go from that.
Fair.
And I think there's others with questions too, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Haverluck.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Whitney Krieg. I'm a lifelong resident of Dickinson. I started working in Medora almost 6 years ago, and after talking to many tourists, I found a common theme. Many people want to visit Medora and the Badlands and all they have to offer, but not necessarily stay there. So I thought to myself, I have a beautiful home that I'm never at because I'm working many hours this time of year. I should post it on Airbnb and see what happens. It turned out to be a success, and my small business took off. And I do want to add, short-term rental, it's not for everybody. It is not as easy as you'd think. It takes time, responsibility, and hands-on management. Fast forward a few years. Last July, I purchased my second short-term rental property, located directly behind my current property. I completed a full remodel on it and posted it earlier this year for bookings. In the fall of last year, I had a realtor reach out to me regarding a property that she was going to be listing across the street. Long story short, I closed on that property shortly after the first of the year. Yes, that's 3 properties, all adjacent to each other. Some have said I've been hanging out with ranchers for too long. Now, even though this may sound like a real-life game of Monopoly that I'm playing, owning 3 properties does not make me a monopoly. It makes me a small business and a local entrepreneur, one who has built a successful, solid business from the ground up, creating income, paying taxes, hiring cleaners, landscapers, contractors, and generating tourism in our city. All my guests are thoroughly and properly vetted. Not every guest is a fit for my property, and I have denied many requests throughout the years. In the booking process, guests are required to state their reasoning for wanting to stay at your property. I've had many guests tell me they looked at different properties in communities surrounding the Badlands, and they chose Dickinson because they wanted to stay at my place. They chose Dickinson and are spending money at our local restaurants, gas stations, stores, and businesses because I could provide them with what they felt was one of the best short-term rental options in southwestern North Dakota. As a small business owner and short-term rental operator, I've reinvested into all of my properties. I've improved landscaping, curb appeal, upgraded interiors, and brought all my properties up to code. This cap punishes the best operators. I've invested in many systems and established procedures. I know the laws and I follow them, and I deeply care about my reputation. In 5 years of owning and operating a short-term rental, I have never once had the police, ambulance, or fire departments at any of my properties. I've never even had a single complaint from a neighbor. Honestly, I've had neighbors embrace it. A couple years back, I spotted a guest parked across my retaining wall on a neighbor's driveway. I quickly messaged the guest and the neighbor to let them know how deeply sorry I was and it was going to be taken care of right away. He quickly responded with, "Whitney, I'm having coffee on your deck right now. This is my family staying at your place." And we all had a good laugh. I'm sharing this story because it reflects how I operate. I'm attentive, responsive, and invested in doing this the right way. I believe the biggest issue with this cap on properties is that there are too many easy workarounds, whether it's a family transfer or creating LLCs and property or partnerships. It doesn't stop short-term rental growth. It just rewards those willing to play the game. This cap would encourage loopholes and dishonesty instead of compliance. If the city feels the need to regulate, we should be regulating impact and not ownership. I've reached out to Ms. Burchuk this morning with some questions, and she said these codes were based off of research from cities like Bismarck, Fargo, and Rapid City. I don't feel Dickinson is comparable to Bismarck, Fargo, or Rapid City. Dickinson has always been the gateway to Medora, so tourism is nothing new here. I have spoken with elected officials throughout southwestern North Dakota, and they have either stated that there are no regulations or very general guidelines. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't have any codes in place, and I appreciate the city being proactive with this matter. I'm here to work with the city to support reasonable short-term regulations, but limiting permits to 2 properties per person doesn't address the actual problems. It just limits successful small business owners like myself who are already doing things correctly. I'd encourage the city to reconsider these codes so responsible operators can continue contributing to tourism, local spending, and improving properties in their neighborhoods. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have for me as an experienced short-term rental owner and operator.
Thank you, Ms. Krieg. Any questions for Ms. Krieg? Ms. Krieg, you said you what, 5 years now you've been operating?
Yes.
Under the Airbnb system?
Yep.
Okay. Using their app and,
Yep.
right. Pretty easy thing to do. I think
Generally,
they're-
yeah.
I mean, I'm saying using the app is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
being the property owner.
Yeah.
Using the app. I've used in the past, so.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Ms. Krieg, do you pay any hospitality tax
I believe
city?
Airbnb remits the taxes for you.
to, you believe that they pay to the city?
Yeah,
You see that on your form?
yeah. I receive tax forms for them and I pay them, so.
And typically, your travelers or the people staying there are truly short term. You don't have any like the medical, as stated earlier, like the medical individuals.
No, not currently right now.
Okay. Okay, any, oh, well, thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Katie Culver-Marsh. I have a very unique position in that I have a short-term rental, but I also run a hotel here in Dickinson. My question is, do we need this at all? I don't believe that we do need any regulations on these short-term rentals. There's a lot of cities that are about our same size that don't have any and are perfectly fine with it. The more things we create, the more things we have to regulate, and the more things that we have to deal with in the cost-wise on the back end for our city officials. I also want to let you all know that as a hotelier, we have been booked out for the library for over a year now. And if we do not have these short-term rentals, City of Dickinson will miss out on a substantial amount of revenue coming from those. Because a lot of our hotels are booked with staffing and with the people that are putting this together, not even for the people that are coming here for the library. So if that is part of the reason that we're putting these in place, I don't think we should be considering that as an issue. I have looked online and around at other cities and what they're doing for this, and comparatively, I think Spearfish is a great example. They have put together a task force to see if anything is needed and what is needed, and I think we haven't done our due diligence to really find out what that means for Dickinson, and I think that would be a great approach, to put together a task force of hoteliers, of short-term rental owners, and other city officials and city people that have a vested interest in this to see what works for us, because we can't just adopt something from Bismarck, which is not apples to apples. We are completely different. I think we need to make something, if we are going to make something, that works for us, that works for Dickinson. And so I ask that we don't send this through in the model it is currently, because I don't know if any of it's really needed, and I think we need to ask other people if it is.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. Any questions?
Ms. Marsh, did you come to any of the planning and zoning meetings when this was discussed?
I watched the last one.
Okay, but you never attended?
I did
any?
not attend, no.
Okay, so there was no comment made?
Not
when
at
this
that
was-
time, no.
Okay.
Anything else, commissioners? Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else wish to come forward? Anyone else? I see we have someone online.
Is it all right if I speak through Teams?
I think we can hear you.
Gotcha. Good evening, Mayor Decker, Commissioners. My name is Ben Capel. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. And of course, thank you for your service to the community. It's a thankless job, so thank you for what you do. Okay, so I wanted to start by saying that this proposal goes far beyond just regular regulations. To me, this is just an attack on private property ownership rights. I've actually spent a significant amount of time at the state legislature testifying against dozens of bills that are just like this. They come on from outside interest groups trying to change how North Dakota does it. And it always comes after ownership rights, what you can do with your property. Once the government starts telling people how many properties they're allowed to own, how they can lease them, that's a pretty big political shift. And it's usually a shift to the left, which I just don't see making sense here in Dickinson. So, and to be clear, I don't own or operate any short-term rentals. I have rental properties, but they're normal leases. They're not short-term. I have no plans of going through the headache of trying to do that. Sounds like a lot of work. So I'm not here to defend Airbnb or any of those. I'm only here to protect and ensure private property rights are upheld. So if somebody is willing to operate within the code and the state law already exists, already regulates this type of thing, who are we to dictate that all these rules? So this two-property ownership cap, especially egregious. People have spent decades trying to work up to build up to properties, and now all of a sudden they're being told they got to sell or convert or shut down. And like we've already found out, these properties are already leased out, probably for the year, I would imagine, to all kinds of people. So that doesn't make sense to me. So I looked up the rules. This puts us at the most restrictive city in North Dakota. I know you mentioned Bismarck and Fargo. those are very lax. The most restrictive ones I saw was West Fargo, and even they didn't have a cap on how many a specific owner could have. And I'll get through that later. But yeah, these types of rules just definitely don't seem like they are North Dakota rules. They seem like they're for problems from out in California. So, and I know we mentioned Rapid City. We are not Rapid City. We do not have those problems. So West Fargo, they have some of the most restrictive policies. They don't cap ownership. Like I said, I would just suggest that the commission or the task force that hopefully is made look into what the other municipalities in the state are doing to regulate, because from what I see, they're already being regulated through our code right now, even regulates rentals, and at the state. This is way too far. Newton's law, every action is going to have an equal and opposite reaction. This is going to apply here. There will be downstream macroeconomic impacts. We have a lot of traveling healthcare workers, traveling nurses, temporary professionals in oil and gas that rely on this short-term housing. I actually know quite a few nurses that use furnishfinder.com for their short stays. I even thought of one down in like Kuczynski. Well, that's in a big building, so they're gonna have to shut down overnight if this passes. So you're kicking traveling nurses out. That just doesn't seem like smart business. And then again, it does pay the city hospitality tax, so we're losing revenue if we're gonna restrict these. And I know where this is coming from. We have the presidential library open up in Medora, and there might be a short-term increase in demand. But I just don't see the effect that that's really going to have. I don't think people like myself, I'm not going to be terminating leases, which a lease agreement is a contract between two people. I mean, you can, as a city, dictate that somebody can't give a 30-day notice if that's the terms of the law and the lease. So let's see. I just don't see that there's going to be a widespread issue here, that this is just overregulation. And again, if there is an issue in the future, that doesn't mean you as a city can't step up and say we need to address this. So one suggestion on this two unit cap for a property owner, why not just make a citywide cap? Say we're only going to offer X amount of permits for the entire city. That's what's available. I'm not suggesting you do that, because just like Newton's law, that will create the problem you're trying to prevent. We all of a sudden have a limit of permits, and you will have a bunch of people rush to get them before they're gone. But that is a way better idea than putting a two unit cap on somebody. And then as far as some of these rules, you want to know the House rules. Who's going to approve that? Is Ms. Wenko going to be reading all of these rules? I was shocked that you didn't ask for proof of liability insurance. That's way smarter than asking for House rules. You want a copy of the property deed? Who even has that? The bank holds those, all right? So now we need to get Tammy at the title team to give us our title insurance numbers. I'm just going to say, if the state of North Dakota can verify for the property tax credit, if they can verify ownership, I'm sure the city of Dickinson can verify it without calling my bank to try to get a copy of the deed. Also, this contact available 24/7, also way over the top. Unrealistic. What if it's not going to be one person? It'll be a management company. It might be a team of people. Like West Fargo and their strict policy, or their stricter policies, they just say make sure that you're available within a 2-hour window. Extremely reasonable. You got to be at the property in 2 hours. Much better. I see the fines are set, but I know there's somebody floated the $100 permit fee. If it's $100, put it in here. Make it in there. Make it legit. Right now, it's floating around there. I think it's a little unrealistic that you can set fines for violations, but you still can't set what the fee is going to be. I think that should be written in there. And yeah, the second to biggest issue is you're only allowing them in buildings with 4 units or less. Again, huge overstep. Many of these apartments have gone to condos. So you have 12, 24 unit buildings. They've decided to go condo, right? It's up to the condo association to decide whether or not they want to allow Airbnbs, not the city. That's something that could be regulated with that building. Again, I can think of many buildings right now that are over 4 units that have these in there. Yeah, you're going to be kicking healthcare workers out, or it's going to have some big effects. So to end this and wrap this up, sorry, I just think that this seems rushed, seems poorly researched, poorly written. I would either ask the commission to overhaul this dramatically to be in line with some of the more cities here in North Dakota. Like I said, Bismarck, very, very reasonable. Fargo, very reasonable. West Fargo, even the most strict one that I could find, still way more reasonable than what you're presenting here tonight. Or else just vote it down and start over. I mean, rental properties are already regulated with city code. I don't know why we need a need to this. So thank you again for your time and listening. I very much appreciate it. Of course, I'll stand for questions, but if there are any, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Capel. Any questions for Mr. Capel?
Mr. Capel, I'll ask the same question. Did you attend any of the planning and zoning meetings and make comment while this was being drafted?
I wish. I did not. No.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I think that the public really didn't know this was happening until very recently. I don't think this was really discussed in a public format until today.
This was brought up in
yeah.
front of Planning and Zoning Commission 2 times, plus 2 other workshops for this item. So
Yeah,
there have
I
been
believe
a
it
total of
was-
4
it was-
discussions.
Ms. Burchek, I thought I saw in there where the application fee was listed. Can you direct me to
The
that?
application fee is not listed in the ordinance. It's covered by our fee schedule. That's
Okay,
where we
that's where I
outline
saw it.
all fees. We
Okay.
don't include them in the ordinance.
Anyone else wish to come forward? Anyone else? All right, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, any additional questions for city staff?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Riddle?
I don't really have a question, more so a statement, if I may. And I mean nothing negative to anybody on this, but I look through this and listening to folks, and I mean, it's fairly ridiculous on what's here. Again, it is private property. I understand some of the things, but I will relate this to farming, if you will. If there was any piece of ground that I had that had any of these rules on there or anything close to this type of rule or this amount of rules on there, I wouldn't do anything with it at all. It even goes back to even the stuff that I own and that I farm myself. If I had to abide by anything close to what these rules are here, I'd quit farming. I'd go to something else. I mean, I don't see any reason at all here for 95% of what is down here. It just, to me, makes absolutely no sense. Sure, a license, I can understand that. I suppose penalties to a point. But as stated from the folks that have talked, they go through and they look and they vet the people that are going to be in there.
I guess,
So,
how do we guarantee that people are vetting short-term rental applicants?
I mean,
I
that's-
appreciate that some people have claimed that they do vet.
Yep.
But we don't have a way of guaranteeing that that's taking place.
Correct, but how is this going to guarantee any of that?
We're not guaranteeing that people are vetting with this. We're just putting in some regulations to ensure that everything is at the very least up to code, and we have some teeth to deal with any problem.
I mean, the up to
tenants
code,
that
that
show up.
can be easily be done by an inspection. Okay, the place has to be inspected, has to pass code. That'd be no different than if I was gonna go buy a house. I mean, should be the way it is. They should have to follow the fire smoke detectors like you had mentioned before and whatever else there is. Have them provide liability insurance. Have them do the stuff like that. For me, I mean, this, like I said, I mean nothing negative by it, but it's just plumb ridiculous for what is here. And I just have a big struggle with this one, so.
Mr. Murphy, Commissioner Murphy, any comments?
Just a couple that I have, and I'm all for, a private business starting up, but I think that the one thing I think was touched on a little bit is the housing cost issue. That can't be denied, that, brings extra competition into some of those homes. I know we don't have a surplus of homes. And I also, the people that I've talked to, I know Ms. Krieg touched on it a little bit, but the neighborhood, feel that of that has been brought up to me. So I get both sides of it, and I think, we need to start somewhere. I know there's always a little bit of push and pull when there's no regulation or no code, and then, we have to draw that line somewhere to try to get a little bit of a grasp on it. And, it was talked today, there's cities all around the state that have these, we don't. So they started somewhere. Where we end, what it looks like, I don't know. But I think to not have it, to Mrs. Marsh's comment, I think that could be dangerous. I think, if every other city has them and they're not as strict or stricter or more confined than ours, I think that's proof that those officials in those municipalities have decided that there needs to be that, like Ms. Burchek said, a delineation in between, this type of business. So, I can see some of this where it might be a little bit extreme, but I think we do need to look at some of this. My comments were from a lot of these people. I attended the planning and zoning meetings when this was being talked about. There was little to no comment on it, and that's what kind of frustrates me a little bit, that things work their way up through these different entities and end up at the commission, and this could be taken care of, and probably when it got here would have been a better product. So I strive residents to, look at that stuff, be educated on it, so you can be part of the planning process and not part of the rewrite process. So with that, I'll yield.
Well, I'm not happy with this. Just straight up not happy. You don't start with a lead weight and then try to shave off pieces. I'm not gonna vote for something that's bad and then try to correct it down the road. So, somebody wants to bring it up for a motion, that's fine, but I would rather that we have a better piece come back to us. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, what I would probably suggest here is maybe we reach out to some of the folks that have been communicating tonight and look for a task force or something similar to that to try to gain some perspectives and some feedback. And then ultimately, we could route it back through Planning and Zoning one more time for the additional feedback from the Planning and Zoning Commission based on what we heard, and then go back up through the proper channels.
Like I said, I don't even want to table it, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So, I mean, options are you table or you bring it to a motion, right?
I would think at this point you would move to deny.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so,
then
Mr. President, I
procedurally, it
move
would-
to deny.
Okay, we have a motion to deny this ordinance as written.
I'll second.
I think this is ordinance 1848.
Yes.
Do we have to assign a number on a denial?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Second.
Second, then. We have a motion to deny the ordinance as written. Motion by Commissioner Riddle, second by Commissioner Murphy. We'll go roll call. Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion is denied.
Thank you.
Our next public hearing is a rezoning notice by petition. This will be presented by City Planner Burchek.
Thank you, Commissioners. Natalie Burchak, City Planner. So Community Development Staff is requesting approval of a zoning text amendment to Section 62-56 Amendment Procedure in Chapter 62 Zoning of the Dickinson Municipal Code in order to remove the requirement placed on any rezoning and special use permit applicants to notify adjacent property owners through petition signature collection. This amendment also clarifies the specific procedure the city utilizes to notify adjacent properties of any public hearings. So as you'll see on the screen, for item E, we remove that requirement as determined by the city. Thank you so much, your lifesaver. We remove the requirement of as determined by the city in order to clarify that the requirements mentioned in item 1 are all required notification processes. There can't be any items that come forward without going through these publications and notification by mail. And we also remove the language that requires a notification by petition. So this item explains that the applicant shall require the signatures of the owners of all properties within 200 feet of the property line in question, indicating the approval of the proposed rezoning. This was deemed as pretty prohibitively restrictive for any kind of developments. It would require any zoning proposal, whether it be one that the city supports or opposes, to gather signatures of every single property owner. If you have a property owner that is absent, if you have a property owner that's otherwise unavailable, then that would not be possible and it wouldn't even move forward to a public hearing, and also raises the question of why a public hearing would be necessary if all adjacent property owners have to sign for support of the proposal. As of now, staff has not received any public comments regarding this ordinance, and staff would recommend approval.
All right, thank you, Ms. Burchek. This is 1848, and let's see here. This is Chapter 62, rezoning notice by petition amendment. So, commissioners, before I open the public hearing, are there any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody who wishes to come forward, please come forward, state your name. Let the City Commission know if you have any concerns or questions on this amendment to Section 62-56. Anyone with any questions, concerns? Anyone from the public? Seeing no one from the public has any questions or concerns on the rezoning notice by petition, this amendment to 6256, ordinance 1848. Commissioners, do you have any questions? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Murphy.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, and Ms. Burchek, you have a Chapter 62 personal and commercial vehicle definitions.
Thank you, commissioners. So community development staff is requesting approval of a zoning text amendment to Section 62-10 definitions, Section 62-471 accessory uses, and Section 62-594 parking of certain vehicles in Chapter 62 zoning of the Dickinson Municipal Code in order to update the definitions of personal, commercial, heavy, and recreational vehicles. And this proposed amendment also clarifies that heavy vehicles cannot be parked or stored on residential lots. So the changes that are implemented with this ordinance: we remove the definition for heavy recreational vehicles. There wasn't really a need to separate out that definition between recreational and heavy vehicles. It clarifies that heavy vehicles means vehicles over 10,000 pounds gross empty weight. So this does not factor in any equipment that is stored on the vehicle. It's just the base vehicle weight. The intention behind that 10,000 pounds is to allow larger personal vehicles and personal trucks that are just under 10,000 pounds. Typically, like the largest trucks we could find were around 8,000. So for something like a Ford F-450 was around 8,000 pounds of a gross empty weight. And then the intention was that any larger vehicles like semi-cabs, delivery vans, things of those nature, which typically have a gross empty weight of over 10,000, sort of hovering between 15 to 20,000 would be lumped into that heavy vehicle definition. And then personal vehicles means passenger cars, vans, pickup trucks, camper shells, troopers, and or toppers, and other similar appurtenances intended for attachment to a personal vehicle, trailer, and boat. This just removes that under 20 feet in length requirement for trailers. And then recreational and commercial vehicles remain the same. So, in section 62-471, this is for home-based business and home occupations. This item 5 mentions a heavy commercial vehicle. That's not one of the definitions that's listed in our municipal code, so we removed that commercial line so that it reads that parking or storage of heavy vehicles to conduct the home occupation is prohibited. So this stops anybody that's using delivery vans or semi-cabs from parking any kind of heavy vehicle or utilizing those for their home-based business to park those in, say, a residential driveway. It would have to go in the garage where it's screened. And then for section 62-594, parking of certain vehicles, for item 5, we have commercial vehicles and heavy vehicles. That commercial vehicle item is removed, so it just reads that heavy vehicles shall not be parked on any lot within the R1, R2, R3, and mobile home districts. This section shall apply even if the heavy vehicle is not being driven for the purpose of the commercial application, endeavor, or business at the time said vehicle is parked with the aforementioned zoning district. So this just prevents, again, those delivery vehicles or semi-cabs from parking in any of the residential zoning districts. And then the reason for this change is that that definition for commercial vehicles can be a little bit loose. It can sometimes apply to something that you're just using to drive to and from work. Any kind of truck that has like a company logo on it. Based on how our code was previously written, it would be possible to justify that those should not be parked in residential areas. Obviously, we don't want to prevent any of those vehicles from being parked there. So what we're trying to limit is heavy commercial vehicles as opposed to general commercial, just like a pickup truck or anything like that. As of now, staff has not received any public comments regarding this ordinance. I'm present to answer any questions you guys may have, and staff would recommend approval.
Commissioners, any questions?
Ms. Burchak, I have one question. So you said like a Ford F-450 would be permitted, correct?
Yeah, so based on what I was able to research, it was around 8,800 pounds, so that would be fine based on this definition.
So if they had spools on the back or a heavy trailer, that still would be permitted?
Yeah, so those are not factored into the gross empty
Okay,
weight. Those
so-
are factored into a gross vehicle, which is different. It can be
So
above
even
10,000.
even pickup and trailer over that would be permitted? Okay.
And I guess my question is how heavily enforced this is going to be. I drive around town, snowstorms coming. I know people that pull tractors into town that have out of city. They're right in, possibly in the ETZ, or they're right in a near location. They pull a tractor into town. Tractor's way over 10,000 pounds with a front end loader on it. They got it parked in their yard. How are we going to be out there ticketing somebody because they brought a tractor in to clear their driveway out?
So since this, again, takes place on that private property, it would be handled by code enforcement, and it would be, again, complaint driven. So if somebody is complaining about their neighbor having a tractor sat in their front yard for days on end, then we would get a complaint, and then we would go out and cite them.
And Mr. President, and I will just add, the reason why some of these changes are coming forward is because of complaints. And we have no teeth and no mechanism to be able to address some of this, where we have individuals that have tractors parked in their side yards, and we have no mechanism because it's not identified in code. So to your point, like I said, these are coming because of complaints that we are receiving.
Yeah, and I figured somebody's bringing it up. I would see the big, like the semi tractors, parked in somebody's front yard and something like that, for an extended period of time. But most of the over the road guys are not leaving them there. So. Yeah, I guess that would be my only, if it's complaint driven, somebody's not, I just, in my neighborhood, I can tell you there's 4 or 5 tractors just sitting there waiting for snowstorms coming all the time, and people are pretty grateful that they actually have them in our neighborhood, cleaning out streets and driveways. And I just don't want this to be that we're sending Chief Siani's police officers out trying to get scale weight on a 450
No.
because it's got extra oversized tires or something on it or something.
And again, that's why we did the gross empty weight instead of gross vehicle, is because it's pretty clear to tell what a make and model's gross empty weight is as opposed to weighing it.
Again, I'm comfortable as long as we're not putting an extra burden on our safety personnel or just city staff in general, because we have enough other things to, it's kind of like well, it'll be another subject coming up, is the containers that are spread out throughout the ETZ and the city. I mean, how are we going to map where these containers are and all this stuff? I don't want to put an extra burden on city staff to go out there and try to enforce a bunch of rules that we already have enough rules. Keep you guys busy, you know?
True.
So, I'm fine with, if this is complaint driven, somebody's abusing, a neighborhood by parking a bunch of heavy vehicles and leaving them sit there for an extended period of time. They're not supposed to be storage yards, so, in a residential anyway. Any other comments or questions? If not, this is 1849, if I'm correct. I'd look for a motion.
Public hearing.
Oh, public hearing, my bad, my bad. Somebody must want to come up. Come on up now. Public hearing.
Jeff Fitzik, Dickinson City resident. I have an issue with this, much like the last proposal. It's overreach for regulating personal property. I understand if there was an ordinance about parking a tractor on the curb for an extended period of time. But we already have ordinances on that, 48 hours, for any vehicle that's parked on the curb, supposedly. So this doesn't fix that problem. Instead, it addresses personal property. You can't park something on your own personal property. And again, as far as unsightliness or uncleanliness, we already have city ordinances that things have to be parked on pads of some sort, where you have to put money into concrete or crushed gravel and park things on that if it's going to be in a part of your yard. So if they're just parking it on the front lawn, you can already tell them to move. As far as parking a large commercial vehicle in the backyard, if you've got it on a pad and it's approved, it's your property. And if you move it regularly so you can mow around it, it's fine. If you don't, Southwest District Health will come down, or the city will come down and fine you for all the weeds that are sitting around it and cite you for having an abandoned vehicle on your property. So again, this is so much overreach that's not necessary. And as far as the complaint-driven side of things go, there's a lot of people, like Mr. Decker just said, that are very grateful for all the tractors that are in the area when the snowstorm comes around. But it only takes one person who's offended by that, who doesn't get their driveway cleaned, to make a complaint. And then everybody on that block who's enjoying that one person's tractor when the snow blows are out of a tractor because there's a complaint. So a complaint-driven tattletale type system has a certain amount of merit, but in the end, it only favors the people who complains, and it makes for uneven enforcement of the law. And that is fundamentally un-American. A law is for everybody. So as far as that's concerned, I highly think that this is overreach on this score. There are already mechanisms in place. You're just making a duplicate of them. Use what you already have to enforce anything that's unsightly or damaged or there for 5 years or whatever else. But don't make a whole new law just for it. No, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzik. Any questions for Mr. Fitzik? So would you see any limitations on, you said if there are, as long as it's on a pad in the backyard?
If it's on a pad or if it's on the, like an alley right-of-way that's owned by the person or something like that, I don't see any problems with that. Like I said, you guys already allow that in ordinance. If it's parked on the front yard, that's not allowed by the city right now. And yet, you see all kinds of campers that are like that all over town. So, you know, again, uneven enforcement.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Fitzik? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else wishes to come forward? Okay, anyone else wishes to come forward? I'll close the public hearing. Here's my only, I know we went ahead and passed the rezone by petition. And we had, I guess, a general discussion with commissioners before on their feelings on that subject. We've never really had a discussion on this, and we're missing 2 commissioners tonight. So I would feel better if we had the full commission here to discuss this.
I agree.
I'm fine with that too.
So this one I would table.
Okay.
So, and I'd look for a motion to table.
Mr. President, I move to table.
We have a motion to table by Commissioner Riddle,
Second.
second by Commissioner Murphy. We'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, Ms. Perchek.
Mr. President, if I may make a comment, please. I'd just like to thank Planner Burchak for the work that she does. She's an excellent asset to the city of Dickinson and a very good city planner, and the city's very lucky to have her. And I just want to make sure that the commission and the public is well aware before these ordinances come in front of the commission, there is a process through P&Z where citizens and commissioners can make comment on that. So I just want to thank Natalie for the work she does, and she's very good, and the city's lucky to have her.
Well, we do appreciate all the work, and sometimes things come out of planning and zoning that necessarily the commission's not going to agree with. That's just part of our commission process, and that's nothing against any city employee or anybody that sits on planning and zoning. It's just the way it comes out of there sometimes, and it's something that it's part of our process. If it wasn't, we'd sit up here and we'd be the overlords and we'd just decide what we wanted to do. So we go through the process, and but I do agree with what Commissioner Murphy said earlier, that sometimes things come out of planning and zoning and nobody's there at 7 o'clock in the morning. I know it's tough to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. I used to sit in some of those meetings that went till noon, from 7 o'clock in the morning. But coming here is, when all the warts are exposed, and then trying to shave everything off is not probably the best part of the process. So we'll try to get better at that, and try to do a little bit more community engagement. Again, we appreciate the work the staff does all the time. I know they're out there, they're looking for what's best for the city. And sometimes what's presented to us is just has to go back to the drawing board, and that's the way it is sometimes, and it's local government. Not everybody's going to agree. So,
Mr. President, may I have one comment? Yep. Has the planning and zoning ever been at a different time?
Commissioner, as long as I've been in this seat, I don't believe so. I think the hard part is trying to find a time where,
Yep.
it's not going to work for everyone. And of course, having it before business hours, I think, is somewhat beneficial. But certainly something we could look at. But I think you're going to struggle no matter what and when you have it.
Yeah, and like I said, I think there's a lot of things that we discussed tonight, and, planning and zoning does a lot of work. The planning, to get these things to come in front of the commission, and then we hear both sides of those. I mean, those things a lot of times can be taken care of in that meeting, and we can get a good product by the time it gets to the commission with good knowledge behind it, and everybody's happy with it. So just for sake of efficiencies, and that's why I brought that point up, just to be.
Well, I know the county, I think I think.
County's at 3:30 on Thursday?
Yeah. As long as I've known, it's always been at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that, to your point, I think that was established years ago because a lot of people came there before they went to work. The meeting was over in 30, 40 minutes when the city didn't have any development going on, and they were to work. I know Earl Abrahamson chaired that committee for 15 years and made it to work most of the time at the pharmacy for years. And I mean, maybe it's something we need to look at just so that people can feel that they maybe can participate in a manner, and 7:15 doesn't work or 7:10 doesn't work.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I know that was discussed multiple meetings, and, you know, the work that planning and zoning and the city planner put into that, and, you know, that, we need to get better at that.
No.
As a city and as a governmental entity.
No. Oh, I
Mr.
agree. I
President.
think we always should look at, we used to always meet on Mondays as a city commission. We decided that there was too many holidays on Mondays, and we were just moving it to Tuesdays anyway, so we moved it to Tuesdays.
And Mr. President, I think to your point too, I think, and sometimes it's not just about when the meeting is. It is the public information as to having the public check the meeting agendas to know what's on
Yep.
it. And so, you know, we may have to look at what information and how that information is being disseminated to the public. I believe we do some sort of notification on Facebook and so forth. I think the city does a really good job with that. But, you know, that public input to be able to say, I should be looking at this,
Correct.
or I should be looking, because if you don't know it's there, it doesn't matter whether you can show up to the meeting or not. And so again, you know, what information is out there, and we can look at that across the city. But just something to consider as far as that public engagement being reciprocated and coming back. And again, just making sure that information is readily accessible, so people understand what's on that agenda item, and what's coming up for discussion.
Yeah. I think we can always look at the process, always making it. I think in a world today, sometimes we think if posted digitally, everybody knows about it, and that's not generally the case. And then you look at how many people actually, you know, are the subscription rate in the paper. It's digital, which a lot of people download, but then there's a segment that still rely on the paper copy, which is now only once a week. So that sometimes doesn't get relayed in a efficient manner, being once a week. So, yeah, I think we can look at the process, and like I said, I appreciate all the hard work the city staff does to get all this. This is no small task to research all this stuff and then present it at one board and another board, and then bring it back in front of us, and hopefully no one feels like it's a personal attack to them that something does not get passed. We are going to be here, and we are a sounding board from the community too. They bounce it off us, and we are responsive. So, well, moving on. We have an ESRI GIS software renewal, and this, I am reading that correctly. We are past the Broadway Dam, presented by Engineering Community Development Director Skluzacek.
Good evening, Mr. President, Commission. This evening is annual maintenance agreement for the GIS software that the city uses. This includes our enterprise software, both the SQL geodatabase, the servers, portal, et cetera, and then ultimately then the desktop software used for employees for several different departments, along with the ability to publish web maps for public use and services, giving various different contractors access to our data. Prices are available through our purchase agreement negotiation through the state of North Dakota for the Esri software, and that the Esri, that's the company that makes the GIS software. So city engineering staff recommends approval.
Just looking at the totals, it's $11,490, correct? I think that's what we have on the invoice.
Let me double check that.
Any other questions on the GIS software renewal?
Mr. Solacek, that price is statewide for any entity? Is that basically said, is that what that means?
Yeah, so that goes through, it's a rate that's identified through the state. And so for the different services that are provided, then the different rates for the different types of services are then set.
So every entity basically gets that service for that cost?
Yeah, we had a discussion about negotiating this down, and that wasn't the option.
It's already been,
Yep.
okay.
Any other questions or comments? Not, I look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Riddle,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Murphy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We have the GIS technician software. Mr. Skluczek?
Good evening again, Mr. President, Commissioners. This is the software license that will be ultimately used for the newly hired GIS technician. And this software then has that professional license capabilities with a lot of other capabilities beyond what we've previously had for both desktop and enterprise capabilities. Price is available to us through the government channels, and that was previously negotiated through the state of North Dakota with Esri, and Esri is the company that the GIS software is ultimately provided. City engineering staff recommends approval, and that dollar amount was $2,200.
Thank you. Any questions for Josh or the city staff on the GIS tech software?
Mr. Skolazichak, looking at this, what are the credits they're talking about? There says there's 500 that are included, and then additional credits can be purchased in blocks of 1,000 credits for 120 bucks.
Where did you see that in the?
It's on the first page of the quote, about halfway down. It's the larger of the two paragraphs under the total.
That I'd have to double check with our GIS specialist. I'm not 100% sure, but I can get back to you at the next
Okay.
meeting
Yep.
on that. But
Okay.
I'm just
Thank you.
wondering if we go above the 500 on any given time.
I guess that was kind of where I was at
Credit,
too.
you know, credits.
Yeah, what exactly that was, and if we ever get close to that, so.
This new position with new software though, right? So,
Yep.
yes, that's correct.
yeah.
Any other questions? Is this an item you want to get? Are you comfortable getting the information later, or do you want?
Well, my concern with that is if we approve the dollar amount that's on there and we go above it, then what are we gonna do at that time?
I'm just wondering, what do we budget for software in your department?
This fit within the budget restraints. So
If there's any additional costs, so.
yeah, I guess what we're trying to do here was make sure we had the software license available for the March onboarding time and stuff like that. But I would imagine this is something that we can work with the vendor on, I guess. So.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Murphy,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Mr. Riddle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to Chapter 20-3, Flood Ordinance Amendment. Mr. Sklodzic.
Good evening again, Mr. President, Commissioners. This is the second reading of the statutory authority text amendment. So the North Dakota Century Code has amended with Senate Bill 2027. That officially took place August 1st, 2025. This ultimately updates the language as to where in Century Code our authority as the local government references to the state Century Code as to what authority we have to oversee the floodplain. Part of this text is ultimately provided to us through the Department of Water Resources, and this was basically just a follow-through for that Senate bill passing. Other than that, engineering staff recommends approval.
I think we have an ordinance attached to this. This is 1847. Any questions on 1847? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Riddle,
Second.
second by Commissioner Murphy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Riddle.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We have Highway 22 roundabout cost participation and maintenance agreement with the North Dakota DOT. Mr. Sklodzic.
Good evening again, Mr. President, Commissioners. For your consideration is a contract with the North Dakota Department of Transportation for cost share participation for the construction and maintenance agreement. This is for the roundabout that's scheduled to be constructed in 2026, located at Highway 22 and 8th Street South. Total project estimate for this is $4,392,232, and total cost participation to the City of Dickinson is $205,201. City Attorney has reviewed the contract with no comments. Project bid opening for this is scheduled for Friday, February 27th, 2026. And that bidding is administered through the North Dakota Department of Transportation through their bidding process. Previously, there have been presentation for the water main replacement that are shown on there for a 60% cost share submittal through the North Dakota Department of Water Resources, and we're currently working on that. And with that being said, city engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Sklodzic. Any questions, commissioners? I was looking through, when's the bid opening again?
Friday, February 27th.
27th, okay. Any other questions or comments? Not, I look for a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Murphy,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Riddle,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Motion carries. We have a general services task order to Highlands Engineering and Surveying. This is a task order. Mr. Sklodzic.
Good evening again, Mr. President, Commissioners. For your consideration is a task order with Highlands Engineering and Surveying, PLLC, for general services. With the MSA, or Master Service Agreement, approval that was done in January of 2026 here, that was an update to their previously approved MSA from January 2018. Ultimately, working with Highlands Engineering, we discussed having an updated task order for the general services, and this could range from anything from reviewing easements or legal descriptions, providing additional information on utility information or other field-related measurements, signage, and other engineering-related requests that we may have. As I said before, this was a task order that was previously in place, and this is just an update to what their current MSA is now, and city engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Sklochek. Any questions on the Highlands Engineering and Surveying task order? Not, I look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Riddle,
Second.
second by Commissioner Murphy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We have an I-94 West Business Loop cost participation and maintenance agreement with the North Dakota DOT. Mr. Sklochek.
Good evening again, Mr. President, Commissioners. For your consideration is a contract with the North Dakota Department of Transportation for cost participation, construction, and maintenance for the I-94 West Business Loop. That's city project number 2022-33. Current project estimate is for $15,869,291. With the cost participation through the Federal Highway Administration for the eligible items, those eligible items are listed on pages 1 through 7 of the agreement. City of Dickinson's estimated share of this is $2,499,090. City attorney has reviewed the contract with no comments. And this project bid opening is also scheduled for Friday, February 27th, 2026, which is being administered through the North Dakota Department of Transportation through their bidding process. And then as a side note, but we ultimately have the additional cost share application with the North Dakota Department of Water Resources for the water main extensions underneath the roadway in 2 locations, and working on making that submittal. Additional funding outside of what Federal Highway Administration funds, North Dakota Department of Transportation, and then if we're fortunate enough getting the North Dakota Department of Water Resources funding, all of the remaining costs will be funded through gross production tax, and this was part of our 2026 capital improvement project budget. City engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions for city staff on this cost share with North Dakota DOT on the West Business Loop? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Murphy,
Second.
second by Commissioner Riddle. Any further discussion?
Just it's coming.
It's coming. You're gonna change the whole west side.
Because of the
real
west
quick.
side of town.
West and south side. So, all right. We'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Riddle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. And then we have our I-94 West Business Loop Roundabout, cost participation with the North Dakota DOT. Mr. Sklochek.
Good evening again, Mr. President, Commissioners. So this is virtually an identical cost share to maintenance agreement with the North Dakota Department of Transportation, the previous 2 that were approved. But ultimately, this is for the I-94 West Business Loop and the roundabout that will be located at Highway 10 and the West Business Loop. The total project estimate for this is $4,607,230, and eligible, the Federal Highway Administration eligible cost share items are listed on pages 1 of 7 in this agreement. City of Dickinson's estimated share for this specific project is $239,105. City attorney has reviewed the contract with no comments. And this also will have the project bid opening on Friday, February 27th, 2026, which is being administered through the North Dakota Department of Transportation through their bidding process, and city engineering staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Sklochek. Any questions on this west roundabout and the cost share agreement with North Dakota DOT? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. President, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Riddle,
Second.
Second by Commissioner Murphy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Riddle?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We have no one signed up for public comments this evening. Commissioner comments, anything? Not, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.